through all these beautiful national parks, and the people were in our way. We wanted to get up to a certain point to see a beautiful sunset, and as my husband and I were going to this place, he says he's knocking old ladies over to get to the sunset. And we realized, oh, we're missing people. You know, we see all this beautiful stuff around us, but some of the most beautiful things are people. So we wanted to make sure that we build a community. Right? That was something that we saw we were lacking in our own lives. We make relationships with people that we are in our community. And when we came back to Richmond, we kind of looked around in different places to say, okay, what do we see as a need here in Richmond? And at the time, I think Starbucks was the only coffee shop, maybe Fifth Street Bagel, which is down from the city. Maybe those two. And we thought, you know, coffee's, it doesn't really divide people. Let's see what we can do with that. So we opened Roscoe's Coffee Bar in town. And we kind of combined a couple of different things to make sure that we could get that connection. So how did we get there? Well, where do we start? I knew nothing about owning a business. My husband knew nothing about owning a business. Where do we start? We started out by looking at buildings. You don't have to do that if you are planning on opening a business, but we decided we wanted to own a building. So we started looking at buildings. And we looked at all a lot. We looked downtown, we looked out east. And at the time, the Depot District was probably the place to be. At the time, there was only that big furniture gallery that's across the street from where Roscoe's used to be, and Little Sheila's. That was it. There was not a whole lot of other places down there to go to get coffee or anything. We had no money. There's a shocker. You don't have a lot of money when you first start a business. Sometimes you don't have a lot of money when you're in that business. So we had to figure out where our finances would come from. We're going to get investors, people that would come alongside us and say, hey, we want to help out, but we don't really want to work it, so here's money to go towards it. And we need to give them a percentage or part of the profit that you bring in. And we also did not know where to start this process. How do you begin even opening a business? So I looked around at the time, and there still is. There's always a person in the community who you can talk to about a small business, which is what that's considered. Of course, it's not a big business. It's just a little small business that we're going to start.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you said you had investors who wanted to invest in the company, but they didn't work it,
Yeah.
did they get any ownership of it, or did they just get the money?
They did get ownership of it.
Okay.
They would get.
So they made decisions and stuff? or no?
Yes, you would have kind of like a board. You put together a board that helps you make decisions on what's going on. So yes, those were things. Some of them didn't want to be involved. They didn't want to be involved at all. So it was just okay. You do it. Here's my money. We trust you with our money. You guys do it, and then just give us part of what you make. Okay. It's kind of how the bank works. When we went to the bank. So when we went to the bank, we said, okay, here's our business plan, and I'll go through each thing. Here's our business plan. This is how much money we think we need to start it. And then we make payments to the bank with interest on what we have. So not only did my husband and I have money tied up in this building, we also have money tied up in the business. So there's two separate things that are going on. Not everybody has to do that. You can put it all together. But my husband and I were able to buy a building and renovate it, and fix it up, and make sure it had everything we needed. Or I could have just gone in and said, okay, I just want to run the business. I just want to need a coffee bar. So I would go to the bank and say, hey, I'll go through my numbers with you as to what it costs to start this business. Okay? Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So what is a business plan? It's a document that explains how your business operates, how it works. And you have to have it to go to the bank. The bank's just not going to give you money. You have to tell them what you're going to do and how you're going to make money. Okay? It's needed because it helps you focus in on what it is that will make your business succeed. Okay? You need to be honest about it. Don't fake numbers. Don't do them like that. Be realistic. Okay? If it's going to cost $10,000 to buy an espresso machine, make sure you put $10,000. Don't put something that's Oh, I think I can get it for cheaper, I think I can. And you need to be thorough, you have to break down my business plan has, I'll show you. Just the pages. There's a breakdown of what it's gonna look like, even on the back. Here's how we plan to succeed. And it just gives the bank a quick look at what it's gonna look like. All they care about is finances. They don't care about what you're selling, what you're drinking, who wants what. They wanna know what it is that you need and what's gonna make us successful in going forward with this coffee shop. Okay, there's 7 parts. She gave you that handout, and there's 7 parts of the business plan. There's an executive, and I'll explain each one, but there's an executive summary for each part. An executive summary, company description, products and services, market analysis, marketing strategy, financials, and a budget. Okay, so there's 7. There's lots of different ways you can call it. I think Mrs. Roberts said she had one that's called 4 Ps.
Yeah.
Okay, what were those 4
The
Ps?
profit, the marketing mix. Product, who remembers it? Promotion, place, and, anybody remember?
You guys really listen.
What? Price.
Good.
Good job, Amy.
Good, good. So those are the things, I mean, they call it a lot of different things, but ours happens to have 7 parts to it, all right? So what is an executive summary? That is just an overview of what your mission statement and your leadership is going to look like. Roscoe's is actually this one. Roscoe's will sell a variety of organic coffees, coffee drinks and teas, soups and sandwiches, pastries, desserts, flavorful wines, blended wine and beers here. With a lineup of specialty craft beers that can't be found anywhere in Richmond. You can find them all over the place, but now at the time you could not, okay? The mission statement that we came up with was pairing of a coffee bar tap room, the classic historical setting. Since then, we had shortened it down. I don't know if you've been in Roscoe's lately, but you'll see the words "We Are Craft" everywhere. Okay, that is the mission statement for Roscoe's right now. I bet this school has a mission statement. I think they did. This school has a mission statement. Just about any company that's functioning, whether it be one who's making money or one who is not, nonprofit, is going to have a mission statement. And that helps remind the owners and the people who work there what our goal is. So our goal was to make sure that we wanted to give you the best coffee and beer and wine in a nice setting down in the Depot District. You guys know what the Depot District is, right? So, company description. That one's pretty easy. It's just saying what it's going to look like. You know, what's your structure? What's your history? What are you going to do in market? Ours was an example. There's a demand for craft coffee. Everybody knows Starbucks. Everybody knows Starbucks. I'll give you a little history on Starbucks. We went to Honduras one year for a mission trip and visited the coffee farm. And on that farm, they showed us how they got all their beans, right? And then they showed us beans in their hands that were all shriveled up and ugly. And these were like hard seeds, okay? And they said, those are the ones they send to Vietnam. And they send them over to Vietnam, and Vietnam has this chemical process that they put in it, they pump them back up, and make them look like real coffee beans, like put it over there. And then they send them to their company in the U.S., which is called Starbucks. Yeah, so Starbucks has crappy beans, essentially, that they send over and chemically treat, pump them back up, and make them look like a good coffee bean. And then they roast them. And when you get your coffee beans, they're green. So it's like a little seed. So when you roast them, they turn brown, but they're all shriveled up. So what we wanted to do is make sure that we have a good coffee bean, okay? We chose a company at the time that roasted small batches of coffee. We ended up roasting our coffee on site. We ended up doing it on a machine that could roast our own coffee. We did small batches at a time. We still do 30 pounds at a time of coffee at Roscoe. And we wanted to make sure that it was certified organic and fair trade. So organic means it doesn't have a bunch of chemicals, okay? Fair trade is making sure made me rethink about what fair trade is. Because if I'm truly doing true fair trade, I'm not gonna have child labor. I'm just not. But if I'm doing fair trade, I'm not gonna give that young man who's in Honduras working in the summers in eighth grade for $40. I'm not gonna have any money to give to him. So it made me really think about what fair trade is. You know, I don't like to see child labor, but this is not the U.S. You know, we're not making you guys work. This is another country who has no money that's coming in. Mom is doing whatever she is doing other people's laundry. So all he wanted from that money left over was a pair of shoes that he could have from Walmart. That's all he said, that's all I wanted, and then he gave the rest of the money to his parents. So fair trade is something I don't look at quite as like I used to before I went to this position. So it looked a little bit. So with that said, that was your lesson today, was fair trade. The Depot District was the place to be. We thought, you know, it's up and coming, we can do this would be a good spot for it. And then finally, our target market for our company subscriptions was the colleges here. So we really had a special heart for Earlham at the time, IUEs, Purdue Extension, IU Tech. So we wanted to build. I lived in a neighborhood that was near Earlham growing up, and we always thought they were different and weird. So there was not a lot of community. There was not a lot of connection between the Earlham students and the community. And honestly, these kids come from everywhere, all around the world. So, you know, we wanted to build a community. We wanted to make sure that they understood. And then we just wanted them to be able to see, because most of them who come in are afraid of Richmond. Believe it or not, they're afraid of Richmond. Come from New York City, but they're afraid of Richmond. So we want to make sure that, you know, hey, there is a safe place to come and check out Richmond. The market analysis, okay, you guys have talked about marketing, and marketing is advertising is part of it. But the marketing analysis, it tells you what's going on within that group, that industry, which is profitable for us. The insights, the competition, who's my competition here, and the market demand, who's going to want this coffee, right? It says on here, for example, that Starbucks, they're our biggest competition. And they always have the upper hand because Starbucks knows how to market. They know how to advertise. They know how to reach people. There's always a line going around Starbucks. If you're out east, you're driving past with your parents. There's always a line. So a local coffee shop has to do something a little bit different than that. So they make sure they meet the customer's needs. We all know pumpkin spice is popular. A gingerbread latte, maybe peppermint mocha at Christmas time. But then we wanted to make sure, you know, what is it that you've come from your community of New York City or Japan or whatever, what would you like to see? So we made sure that we talked to our customers about what they wanted to have in their local coffee shop. Now, marketing strategy, how are we going to get this out there? How are we going to advertise to these kids and to retain or keep our customers, okay? We wanted to make sure that they had a place, we called it the living room. It had comfy sofas and couches. You could get relaxed. The walls in there are brick, and they weren't the best brick, so people would leave little notes inside of them. People would come and pick up those little notes inside of them and check it out. Yeah, we found all kinds of strange little notes. But anyway, we also had Wi-Fi. You know, at the time that wasn't a big popular thing, but now everybody has Wi-Fi. We made sure that we had Wi-Fi and then fax. So if they wanted to come in and do their homework, they could sit there and do their homework and not have any problems uploading it to the cloud. We had board games, the kids could come, and families, not just kids, could come and check out and hang out. We didn't set a time limit on how long we could eat. You know, a lot of businesses, if I'm going in for dinner, I'm expected to eat and leave, order, eat, and leave. That's just what it was. At Roscoe's, we didn't do that. We said, hey, you can come in, you can hang out, you can get a cup of coffee, do your homework, play board games with your friends, and hang out. And then finally, we had an open mic night, which just meant we gave them an opportunity to express themselves. They could sing, do poetry. I heard some of the dumbest poems I've ever heard in my life when I was working. It was weird. We also, instead of decorating our walls, we invited them to come in and put their art on our walls. And they could sell it. And we did have profit for the students for putting art on their walls. So a lot different. Finally, part of your business plan is having financials. Everybody wants to know where your money's coming from, how much you're gonna make, okay? That, the bank will need what you think you're gonna make, that projection is, what your statements are gonna look like, and how much investment needs that you're going to have, all right? So when you start at the coffee shop, of course, we had to do nothing. So we had to have an espresso machine, all right? We had to tell them how much it was gonna cost. It was $8,000 just for the espresso machine. Had to have ice machines, and that's another $4,000. You had to have coffee makers. You can't just have the coffee makers like you have at home. You have to have something commercial that you're gonna keep up with, that's gonna give you lots of coffee and a turnaround time so you can make sure that customers have it. You gotta think about kitchenware, like knives and cutting boards and big sandwich station and all these things that you don't think about, refrigerators, freezers. You gotta have tables and chairs. Don't think about those things. Trash cans, where you're gonna put your trash. If you haven't purchased your own building, you're gonna have to think about, okay, how many toilets am I gonna need in this bathroom? How many sinks am I gonna need in this bathroom? Part of that comes with working with the state, because they will tell you how much you need by determining how big your place is. How are you gonna heat it? How are you gonna air condition it? All those things. And hopefully it's running right instead of like here in school. That's crazy. But you wanna make your customers comfortable. So then after you get all that done, you have to have a budget, okay? That budget is gonna be things that are associated with monthly cost. How much my syrup's gonna be? How much coffee am I gonna have to order? How many cups? How many lids? How many sleeves? How many straws? Because you're doing a little bit of everything. You gotta know how much you need to order. Then your personnel costs. Okay, you have to pay my manager. How much is he gonna make a year, or is she gonna make a year? You have to pay your assistant manager. You have to pay your employees. So you have to figure out exactly how many hours in a day, you have to set your hours, and how many hours in a day that your employees are gonna work. So you have to budget all of that. Then, of course, you have to give them what your projected revenue is. Okay, projected revenue is a guess as to how much it's gonna cost you, how much money you're gonna earn. Okay, and you have to do comparisons, you have to check across the board and see what other places like Starbucks is charging, and make sure that what you are charging is gonna be enough to pay for your service, coffee, employees, the cups, all those things. All those things you have to take into consideration. Biggest thing about owning a business is don't be afraid to take risk, okay? When we first started this, I was scared to death. I thought, how do we do this? I don't know anything about owning a business. My husband didn't know anything about owning a business. But we realized that it doesn't, while it takes a lot of things to do it, on my part, all it does is I make sure that I'm gonna take a risk. I'm gonna say, oh, what can happen if I fail? Okay, what if it fails? What if it fails? Very easily, Roscoe's could have failed, especially in that first year, okay? I could have lost my home. I could have lost all of my finances. I could have done a lot of things. But when you're making a business or you're creating a business, what you want to do is you go to the state, it's the worst part of the job, and you make sure that you set up your company where it's not going to take away from you. If I fail, it's going to just take away the business. Take a risk. It was worth the risk. It was definitely worth the risk. If it failed, it just meant I had to get rid of everything and close the doors. All right? That was my biggest risk. And I had to set myself up, or my family up, to make sure that I didn't lose absolutely everything that was my car, my house, and the way I did. We set it up so if it failed, then we weren't going to lose everything. We were just going to close the business. So if it succeeds, has potential to making a lot of money. Coffee shops don't make a lot of money. And that's okay. That was not part of what our success meant to us. We paid our employees, we made money, we had profit, and we had things that we could do. The success for us was not just the financial part of it, the money part of it. The years ago. Okay? Roscoe's has been around that long. I think that's a success. It's in different owners' hands. We sold it in 2019. Just because we were ready to get out. It was just time to move on. But they're still going. It's still successful. You go down there and there are still lots of people who come in and hang out and they're doing all kinds of different things. So what if it succeeds? Hey, it's great. It's a great thing to happen. Okay, I think I mentioned the worst part about owning business, working with the state. I worked in the school with Mrs. Roberts a long time ago. That was the worst part of the job. Just working with the state. That was the hardest part. Because they have different things you have to go through to get it done. But it does protect you. If you're going through the state, you have to set up your business plan, your business itself, the company through the state. We had to have an architect that took stuff to the state to say, okay, this is how many bathrooms you're going to need. We think we have to roll them out. For them to approve. Well, that is a good thing in the long run. Working with them in the short run is okay. It's very difficult. Well, my husband and I came up with some other things that we really tried. Oh, the time that it takes. It is not something that you set up and you go. Even though we had managers that ran it, it's not something you set up and go. And we never got a vacation without somebody calling us. Never. That's just the way it was. And your question is, how long is it going to take to make money? Excuse me, that's one of the things you're going to want to know about. How long does it take? First year, that's part of your projections. First year, you don't make a lot of money, you just want to break it. And then you're supposed to grow as you go. And we do that. We're able to do that. But in the meantime, how are you going to make that money? And then the best part of owning a business. For me, it was getting to know people in the community. I met maybe 5 people. I probably even know some of the parents. It's just the way it is. One of the good things about it is the reviews. If you see your review, you get good ones and bad ones, and of course we do. But those good ones really make you feel better about succeeding. Making the relationships not just with my customers and the problem students, or students in general, but also with my employees. I got a chance to get to know, a lot of them work for Earl. They were Earl students, so I got to know them. A lot of them were just 19, 20, 21-year-old kids, in my eyes, kids who I wouldn't have gotten to know any other way. I learned a lot about tattoos at that time. I didn't know a whole lot about tattoos, but I learned a lot about tattoos at that time. I did, it's true. And then, of course, when you start to make money, that's all. Man, I'm through a little fast today.
That's okay. So I have a question for you, or a comment really. One of the things when we talked about starting a business, one of the questions that I asked you to ask yourself is, what problem do you see? Okay, what is the problem that you want to try to fix with your business? So I noticed that your problem was that you didn't see community.
Yes.
So that was what you were trying to do with your business.
Yes, yes. One of the things we're trying to achieve was we saw a need of that disconnect between early students, especially early students, and the community of the community. So we wanted to make sure we could somehow connect them together, and we did that.
And so while that isn't like a problem like life or death, it still is like a concern that they had for this community. So when they were starting their coffee business, you think, well, what problem is that solving? Well, I think it's an odd way to think about it. You just gotta think of that as a problem. You gotta find something that you care about. They obviously cared about connecting people, and so then how can we do that? And they decided that a coffee shop would be a way that they could do that and build those connections. And then yesterday we talked about budgeting. And so, like when you made your budget to start your business, was it like a year-long budget? And then once you got going, like what kinds of things did you keep track of when you did the budget?
Yes. They want to know, I'm big on all of things, but those projected monthly expenses, they don't want to know what our budget's going to look like. So what are your utility costs going to be? How much is it going to cost me to lease this building? Even though we own the building, we leased that part of the building to Roscoe. So they paid, even though we owned the building, they paid us a certain amount each month. They paid rent each month. How much is it gonna cost in salaries? What's it gonna cost in equipment, those purchases and repairs? You can just think about what's it gonna cost initially. You're gonna have to have repairs on all this stuff. And then your product itself, your cups, your lids, your syrups, your coffees, your teas, that kind of thing. So those are things you set up for a budget year long, and you show how it is to grow. So you give a percentage of each year as it grows, and what you're expected to make, as opposed to what you're supposed to spend. Of course, you're gonna spend less than what you make, so you make a profit on that. So that's part of that budget.
Okay, so then as you progressed through the number of years that you owned it, you were always going back and looking and making adjustments?
Yes, absolutely.
Did you make adjustments in the middle of the year, or?
Yes, there are times we had to make adjustments in the middle of the year. You know, right before COVID, things were getting a little iffy, okay? And we could see that, okay, our prices are gonna have to increase, because what we were being charged had to increase. So what it cost me to buy bread, to make sandwiches, to buy the turkey and ham, and all the things that we use in chicken. Those are all things that we had to look at and say, oh, we're gonna have to adjust our cost. Here's a little thing about cost. Normally you triple what it is your cost is. Say a cup of coffee is maybe 60 or 80 cents a cup, okay? That's what I would pay for it. That's how much I would pay for the cup, the sleeve, the lid, and the coffee that actually went into it, all right? Plus a little bit for your utilities and things that are there. So it's gonna cost me about 80 cents for this cup of coffee, all right? Well, if you triple it, it's gonna cost you almost $3, all right? That's how you get your prices. Normally, for food and drinks, it's normally a triple of what your cost is. So if you're going to a restaurant and you get a soda, and it's probably about $3. It's costing that company about $1 to get it out to you. But for them to make money on it, they have to turn around and increase their prices so they can make a couple of bucks on it. That's how they make their money. You have to start with whatever it is that you have, that you put into it, and your manpower included, times 3. And that's how you come up with your price.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Like, just based on what you've heard, based on what we've learned this semester, or just any questions at all? This is someone who started a business from zero. So, I know that we've been talking about starting a business, and do you have any ideas about what would be a good idea for a business? Maybe you can ask her. Any questions at all?
I will tell you, we just started another one after we sold Roscoe in 2019. We just bought a building downtown Richmond, and we're opening wedding business. This is something that's different. I've done that before either.
Okay, so what was your thinking behind that?
Richmond has a lot of places to get married. You can get married at the Fourth Floor Blues Club. You can get married down in the Moors where the Sergeant building is. You can get married at church. A lot of different places. But none of them are what we would call high-end. These are really bougie looking, or classy looking. So we built this place where you can have your wedding ceremony, you can have your reception, you can have your bar, your catering, everything right there in the building. It's very, very nice. I didn't have anything to do with it. I just wrote the plan. All the decor and everything. Okay, but we saw a need that, people wanted something a little more high end than just, bar.
And then, working with your partners, you guys had to agree on like percentages and how much you owned and who did. So, what kind of a legal thing did you do?
We had to come up with our, we call them the bylaws, that's what they're called. It's a bylaw, okay? And that's something you actually have to submit to the state too. They wanna see what your plans are, how you're gonna divide stuff up, who's gonna get what, who's going to do what. If it dissolves and if it fails, what do you do with it? Where's all the money going, who gets what? And that's part of what that is making sure that everything is set up in your bylaws that say, okay, we had it set up, our the end of the year, and you had money left over, you could divide that up into your partners. And each partner would get a little bit of percentage based on what their share, their ownership was.
Alright. And then the same thing happens if the company were to dissolve, then each person is responsible for
For their
whatever.
share.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you fail, unfortunately, that happens sometimes, but each person, if we go into business and we're in $250,000 in debt, each person's gonna have to pay their percentage. We still have to figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we all have 25%, then each person is responsible for $25,000.
So however you come up with that.
Yeah. You do so many shares and then you divide it up among you, after you so choose. Like I said, this last one, we just chose to do it as the women having a little bit more, so we get great.
Okay, why did you decide to do a corporation instead of a partnership?
Okay. Partnerships or LLCs, and these are, what we're in is called an S corp. An S corp essentially protects you that if something does happen in your company and it fails, they're not going to come after my home. Okay? You set it up, like, I don't remember with an LLC, because an LLC is something, it's a limited liability corporation. It means they can take part of what you make in your personal life, not just your business life. They're separate from other corporations,
Okay, all right.
with that kind of corporation.
Sure, sure, and we've talked about that, how if you do a sole proprietorship or a partnership, then you are putting your personal finances on the line. So your house or, your car or your bank account. And if you do a corporation, then you're not putting yourself, your personal finances on the line. And if you remember from the movie The Founder, when Ray Kroc was first trying to build that first McDonald's in Des Plaines, he did put his house on the line. So it grew, but that's how he started, was by putting his own personal assets on the line.
Unfortunately for us, I mean, my husband and I were in a position where our partners at the time, so we have three others, didn't have a lot of what's called equity in their lives, okay? Equity is their house, the cars that they own, the land that they have, those kind of things. We had enough equity that we could say, okay, the bank, if something happens, if it fails, it's gonna come back mostly on us, because we own the building, all right? But we set it up so our partners wouldn't have that liability, or they would lose absolutely everything they had. We could risk having losing some, because we have equity behind us, like Ray Kroc.
Okay, all right. And then, those buildings that you own the building for the new place?
Not for the new place.
Okay.
No, wait a minute, for the wedding venue, yes.
Yes.
Roscoe's new building, no, we don't.
Okay, so when you own the original location of Roscoe's, did you do anything else to that building? Because it's kind of a big building.
Yes, it is. We have 2 Airbnbs upstairs. I wish I'd brought pictures out. That's a good thing. So we, not only have business downstairs, but we have Airbnbs upstairs. My husband and I lived up there for a while, for about 4 years. And we thought, oh, you know what? We can do an Airbnb. In the back of Roscoe's, where our Airbnb was a roasting room upstairs. So my apartment smelled like bacon, coffee, and there was a bread maker up there too. So my apartment smelled really good.
Yeah.
It smelled really good. But when Roscoe's left and went to the new building, we decided we would put another Airbnb. So we got 2 upstairs, and then we rent out the downstairs of that building now to a company called Lotus Hall. Lotus Hall. Parks and stuff.
Okay, and what about the new building? Do you do anything upstairs?
Not yet. Right now, we just have, upstairs, we have bride and groom room, and we have ceremony site for weddings. Out there, but we will, in the front of that ceremony site, there's a beautiful area.
Okay, cool.
That will help offset the cost, because, if you have a wedding venue, it's not booked all the time, and your people usually go upstairs. So we thought, well, we put an Airbnb upstairs and have income coming in all the time to help pay our bills. So when the wedding venue is not running.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about yesterday when we were talking about financing, and you have to, do your budget in such a way that when you have a busy season, you are saving back some money, so that when it's not a busy season, you still have enough money to pay your
being mean. Just saying, mean boy, you know, not. Because he had a crush on me.
Yeah.
That's why he did it.